Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered why some regions have water that refuses to lather soap while leaving thick white deposits inside kettles and pipes? That difference has a name and it carries real consequences for both our health and our infrastructure. Today we are going to explore water hardness, its composition, its health impacts, and its treatment. Let us start by defining what hardness actually means. Hardness is defined chemically and functionally as the soap destroying power of water. A consumer considers water hard when large amounts of soap are required to produce a lather. This soap destroying power comes from divalent and multivalent cations. At the center of this mineral profile are calcium and magnesium, which are responsible for what is called primary hardness. Around them sit other elements such as aluminium, barium, iron, manganese, strontium, and zinc, which contribute to secondary hardness. These divalent and multivalent cations form stable, insoluble salts when combined with anions in the water, fundamentally altering the water's chemical behavior. Importantly, sodium and potassium are excluded from this hardness calculation, since they are monovalent ions and do not contribute to hardness. Now let us look at the chemical duality within hardness itself, which splits into carbonate and non-carbonate types. Carbonate hardness is also called temporary hardness. Its key characteristic is that it can be completely broken down and removed simply by boiling water. It is associated with anions that contribute to alkalinity, namely bicarbonate, carbonate, and hydroxide. Its mechanism involves metals combining directly with a form of alkalinity, which is the water's capacity to neutralize acids. On the other hand, non-carbonate hardness is called permanent hardness. It cannot be broken down by heat or boiling and requires advanced chemical intervention to remove. It is associated with non-alkalinity anions such as sulfates, chlorides, and nitrates. Its mechanism involves metals combining with anything other than alkalinity producing compounds. Where does this hardness actually come from? Hardness is not inherent to water, it is acquired. As water percolates through subterranean minerals, it acts as a solvent. Rainwater and surface water start out soft, but as water moves downward through rock layers like limestone, calcium is leached into it, and as it moves through dolomite, magnesium is leached into it. Because this leaching process requires prolonged geological contact, deep groundwater inherently possesses a significantly higher hardness profile than fast-moving surface water. To measure and classify this hardness, we use standardized scales. On the World Health Organization scale, water below 60 milligrams per liter is classified as soft. Water between 60 and 120 milligrams per liter is moderately hard. Water between 120 and 180 milligrams per liter is hard. And water above 180 milligrams per liter is very hard. There is also a taste threshold, which depends on the associated anions, and an aesthetic limit, where anything above 500 milligrams per liter generally becomes objectionable to consumers. Excess hardness comes with real infrastructure costs. One major issue is boiler scaling, also called furring, where the precipitation of carbonates leads to extreme fuel wastage, loss of thermodynamic efficiency, and even a catastrophic risk of boiler explosions. Another issue is plumbing encrustation, which shortens the lifespan of pipes, heating utensils, and household fixtures. There is also the problem of domestic waste, since hard water causes massive increases in soap and detergent consumption due to lather suppression. And finally, there are culinary and fabric impacts, since hard water drastically shortens the life of washed fabrics and causes vegetables cooked in hard water to become less digestible and lose their natural color. On the opposite end, aggressively soft water carries its own hazards, The first is high corrosivity, which occurs below 100 milligrams per liter. Soft water acts as a volatile solvent, actively leaching toxic heavy metals, specifically lead, copper, cadmium, and zinc, directly from distribution pipes. The second hazard is adverse mineral balance, which occurs below 75 milligrams per liter. This deprives the population of baseline mineral intake, triggering a cascade of biological deficits and negative health outcomes. Despite these risks, hard water also offers important biological benefits, contributing between 5 and 20% of required daily mineral intake through the high bioavailability of hydrated ions in drinking water, which is crucial for preventing marginal deficiency. In terms of cardiovascular health, there is a strong inverse association between water hardness, particularly magnesium, and cardiovascular disease and stroke mortality, since magnesium drives vasodilation through endothelial prostacyclin release. In terms of gastrointestinal health, magnesium provides protective effects against gastric, colon, rectal, and pancreatic cancers, while the calcium and magnesium combination acts as a natural laxative. In terms of skeletal health, there is a direct correlation with increased bone mineral density. In terms of reproductive health, magnesium sulfate actively prevents preeclampsia, reducing the risk by around 50%, and also helps prevent preterm labor. And in terms of metabolic health, hard water shows protective associations against type 2 diabetes since magnesium regulates ATP related enzymes. However, there are also epidemiological cautions to be aware of. The World Health Organization maintains that there is no convincing evidence of generalized adverse health effects from hard water, though specific localized risks do exist. On the dermatological front, there is a high prevalence of childhood eczema or atopic dermatitis linked to the combination of hard water and chlorine. On the neurological front, there is a contentious link to Alzheimer's disease when aluminum levels exceed 0.11 milligrams per liter, showing 1.5 times higher risk. On the renal front, high mineral content is not ideal for calcium nephrolithiasis, meaning soft water is generally preferred to prevent kidney stone recurrence. On the gastrointestinal front, excess calcium interferes with the absorption of iron, zinc, and phosphorus, while concurrent high magnesium and sulfate levels around 250 milligrams per liter each can trigger diarrhea. And on the reproductive front for males, localized reports in hard water regions of India indicate male infertility linked to calcium-induced oxidative stress. Given these dualities, engineers have developed methods to remove temporary hardness. The first method is thermal expulsion, or simply boiling. Heat is applied to raw water, which expels carbon dioxide gas, forcing calcium bicarbonate to convert and precipitate as insoluble calcium carbonate, though this is too expensive for large-scale use. The second method is Clark's lime method, where quick lime is added to the water. This absorbs carbon dioxide, and dosing requires exact precision, about 1 ounce of lime per 700 gallons of water per degree of hardness, which precipitates calcium carbonate and reduces magnesium. The third method uses sodium carbonate or soda ash, which undergoes chemical substitution to yield sodium bicarbonate while precipitating calcium carbonate. For permanent hardness, a more powerful method is required, known as the base exchange engine. In this process, hard water containing calcium and magnesium ions enters what is called the sodium permutit complex. Inside this engine, a resin traps the heavy calcium and magnesium ions and releases harmless sodium ions in their place. The water then exits at absolute zero hardness. Once the resin becomes exhausted, it goes through a regeneration loop where it is washed with sodium chloride brine to strip away the trapped minerals and recharge the system for reuse. However, This Permutit process is actually too effective. It produces zero hardness water, which is a highly corrosive solvent that destroys pipes and deprives the population of vital minerals. To solve this, engineers use an engineering compromise called blending. Zero hardness water from the base exchange process is blended together with raw hard water through a blending valve to achieve optimal biological and structural hardness. In summary, boiling targets temporary hardness at a domestic scale through heat precipitation. Lime addition targets temporary hardness at a municipal scale through carbon dioxide absorption. Sodium carbonate targets both types of hardness at an industrial scale through chemical precipitation. And base exchange targets both types of hardness at a municipal or industrial scale through ion swapping and blending. To bring everything together, water hardness comes down to three core themes. First, chemical composition, where hardness is governed by divalent cations like calcium and magnesium interacting with either alkalinity, giving temporary or carbonate hardness, or non-alkalinity, giving permanent or non-carbonate hardness, with the ideal target sitting within the 60 to 120 mg per liter range. Second, epidemiological impact, where water hardness acts as a double-edged sword, protecting against cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, and bone density loss, while extremes can trigger heavy metal leaching in soft water or localized risks like eczema and gut interference in hard water, with water contributing up to 20% of highly bioavailable daily mineral intake. And third, engineering and treatment, where hard water can destroy infrastructure through scaling, boiler explosions, and soap waste, while treatments like Clark's method and the Permutit base exchange effectively strip minerals. Though engineers must artificially blend raw water back into the supply to prevent catastrophic downstream pipe corrosion. Hope you have understood about water hardness, its composition, health impacts, and treatment. If you found this video useful, please like and share with your friends and colleagues. Thank you.